foreclose just, if I don't pay my taxes, well, they do today, they can't foreclose on it.
You have to wait.
How's
Yeah,
everything?
yeah, for 18 months of
Okay,
foreclose.
so this is what?
18, well, it's probably 2 years ago. So it'll be 2008, so now we got
This is
9.
the months, how much you have to pay.
This is the year 2009, 8, and we still got 9, 10, and 11. Okay. But now, see, this woman is deaf, and the girl that's helping her, and a real estate agent, a real estater has called and wants 45 days to sell the property.
Right.
I think they should give them an opportunity. I mean, I think we should be showing a little compassion
Sure.
for people.
Well, we
That's-
have until May 24th anyway, so that's.
Yeah, because you can't do much with with IRS. That's what just owed it for IRS.
Yeah,
So the poor woman's in serious trouble.
right.
And these over here, this woman's dead, Avis, and this is her daughter, and they're not interested, so we can get rid of that, we can sell that. The taxes are only $639.
Hey, Bob, I got
With
6:30.
Collins, he's made a deal with the town, he's paying so much money.
I'm busy reading.
This one's paid.
I'm being lazy.
Bankruptcy, nothing we can do. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's all said, yeah. Judy, you're taking roll call. You're all set with the roll call. Approval of minutes. I believe everybody's got a set of minutes for the last meeting. I'd entertain a motion to accept, reject, or change.
I move that we accept the minutes of April
Fourth.
4th, was it?
Fourth.
Yeah, April 4th. It's presented to us.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, those in favor of accepting the minutes, raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Because of such a long agenda as we have tonight, I'm asking that any reference by name or title shall be in writing and signed by the presenter. Action will respond at the next Selectmen's meeting if it does not interfere with any legal action. So with that in mind, we go to public comment. Tom?
I'm nearly furious with an exchange that I was involved with today. All right, I'm beyond furious, actually. I copied all of you. I spoke with all of you that I wanted to raise the point that there was fairly clear evidence that our current town council might have a conflict of interest. I'm sure you all recall that conversation. I followed it up with an email. I received an email from our town attorney today telling me he was not authorized to respond, but took the opportunity to suggest that I contact the lawyer I used to sue my town to get a clearer definition of conflict of interest. Then began a back and forth with him where he threatened to sue me because I raised an issue of conflict of interest. You've seen it all. If one of you think that this exchange was healthy or appropriate, then you're not a better board, you're a different kind of bad. This is wrong. And Selectman Krevling, I've had it up to here with your inferences of my reigning supreme over a small group of people, an axe to grind. Keep it to yourself. The assumption here is you're speaking for the board. I don't think you understand that. And quite frankly, I don't think you understand a lot. Please understand, you newer members, where were you when the fight was going on? You bubbled up in the final 3 weeks, and suddenly you're the experts. You've also, I assume, in error, included a communication from your chairman to each of you at the end of this email. Equally inappropriate. Remember why the others aren't here. The will of the people. Make a choice whose side you're on. Are you on the side of the town, or are you on your own side? That restraining order, while naming Eleanor and Bob and Jim Webster, that's the last mention of their name in it. It's riddled with evidence of our town manager and being in communications as early as April 2010, while we sit here weekly and listen to, he has no idea any of these things are going on, yet you support it. You coddle our lawyer because I made him upset. You say, before your vote even happens tonight, and this is what I caution you about, you know what you wrote. You're voting tonight to approve co-counsel. You say to the lawyer, with the speed of things coming up, how can I help you with this? How can we help you with this? Are you speaking for the board? Have you voted on this already? Do you have any idea how inappropriate all that is?
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else?
I guess I'm done. A different kind of bad. A different kind of bad.
Peg Wheeler, 63 Blackberry Hill Road. My question is about why Bateman's project is now going to the appeals board. It's my understanding that they were approved to do what they wanted to do. They have just decided they want to do something different. And ordinarily, that would suggest they need to go back to the planning board and be reapproved. The Board of Appeals is really meant for a project that is turned down from the planning board and wants to seek approval in spite of that. And at least that's my understanding. So I'm not quite sure why they're circumventing or being allowed to circumvent going back to the planning board for the 3-bedroom units instead of being sent directly to the Board of Appeals. That seems like a little bit of an unfair shake for the Board of Appeals, who are being put under a rather unfair spotlight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oscar?
I have a couple of copies that came out of whatever you were served. They're both to Keith Feathen. One dated May 24th. the other date-
Oscar, I just read what I expect you to follow, and
That's
I
all
think
right.
you need to.
You think I need to?
On the-
You
on
don't think
the-
it's reasonable that somebody answers the question?
Yeah, I think,
Robert?
let's.
No,
give it to us.
what you're trying to do
Get
is,
your issues in writing, give them to us, we'll give you an answer at the next meeting. I stated that very clearly. So if it comes to name calling or indication of a officer in the,
let me finish what I was going to say, please. I have the floor. I'm saying that the Maine State Housing Authority wrote 2 letters to Keith. And in both letters, one dated the 24th of May, the other the 11th of November, they indicated to him that there were 3-bedroom units. Now, he claims he has absolutely no knowledge. He also says on there that they were for low-income housing credits. Again, he kept saying no, no, no. And last but not least, it says, this notice is also an invitation for the town of Berwick to comment on the proposed construction of this project, whether in support or opposition. I want to know where everybody was, especially Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you. But it's not fair, Robert, to
Anybody
try to
else?
censor the people.
Anybody else? Yep.
Mrs. Murphy, in 2009, you weren't on the board.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. In 2009, and I've heard you say it, and I just wanted everybody else to hear it, when you voted for this project, you assumed that you were voting for low-income housing. Isn't that correct, for the elderly people?
No, I assumed I was voting for senior housing.
I'm sorry, senior housing. So you didn't no idea about low-income housing?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Bob, am I correct in assuming that at the last meeting, that would have been the one that went from 9:30 at night to midnight, the chairman came out and said that you had no votes taken in executive session? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. In that same correspondence that Mr. Levine spoke about, there is an exchange, an inappropriate exchange from Alan Shepard to the board. And if you read down through that email that Mr. Karevlin attached to it, it says that Alan Shepard has contracted, or appears to have contracted, Mr. Dench out of Lewiston. Now, I got a couple of concerns. At your last public hearing, I asked you all to let the town manager offer this project and Alan Shepard based upon their handling of it. And I have the same two things from Maine State Housing. And I was here last week when Keith said in your budget hearing he knew nothing about it. The chairman asked him, Jody Wright asked him, he knew nothing about it. But clearly he did. And I agree with Mr. Levine. If you guys don't do something about this, you're going down the same path as the other board. And Bob, the last thing I have for you, it says both in this paperwork and also in the article that Amanda wrote in the paper, that the entire board was in Keith Trefethen's office in July of 2010 with a meeting with the Bateman partners. You were on that board. Were you in that meeting?
I would think so.
Okay, you were in that meeting. So you were in an illegal executive session or illegal meeting because it wasn't open to the public. And it says in that paperwork that you guys have that you talked about the expanded footprint so they could get their points. I'm asking you, if you were in that meeting, please do not influence the remainder of the board, and please recuse yourself from this. And I'm asking you to please do that tonight, and I'm asking you to please let the town manager offer this project, and also the attorney. And please do not, Brian, Mrs. Murphy, Ernie, go with a counsel that is recommended by either Keith Trefethen or Alan Shepard. You're making a huge mistake in this town. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else care to speak? If not, we'll go on to the next bit of business. A report of committees. There are two that I'm aware of. There may be others that I'm not aware of, but
Oh, accounts payable.
I'm sorry. Accounts payable. Yes, that's your chore.
Well, you got communications first.
Yeah, we still have communications too.
I'm running down through it
Vice
pretty
Chairman.
quick here.
Yeah, you're moving right along.
Communications, you're right. My apologies.
Just to clarify something I had said at your last meeting, I was under the impression at that point that the case between Berwick Iron and Metals or Duffy versus the town of Berwick was settled. I erred in explaining to you folks that all that's been withdrawn is the attempt to go to the Board of Appeals for any local action. The case is still in front of the court at this point, Robert and Donna Duffy versus the town of Berwick and Iron Metals. I've been provided a brief from Attorney Shepard representing the town in reference to this case. If you need me to make it available, I certainly will provide a copy to you all.
Does that letter state that they've dropped all charges?
No.
No, there's still some
No,
charges still.
The only thing they've dropped is the local consideration to be reviewed. They're still going to court to discuss the process, the due process that they received and their feelings about the review by the independent air analysis that was completed. That's what they're disputing at this point.
So what does that mean in as far as the town is concerned?
Well, the case is still pending with the judge, and it will be heard here shortly. I don't know, we don't have a date as to when it'll be heard
But the
yet.
town is still in legality with?
Yeah, we're still aggressively defending ourselves.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We received a letter of invitation from the Great Works Regional Land Trust for a dedication of Grants Meadow on Saturday, April 21st at 1 PM to take place at the Beaver Dam Heath. If you remember, last year you allocated $10,000 to the Great Works Regional Land Trust, or the town did, to assist in the purchase of this property. So I believe that you all received one of these, and I just make it known to everybody else here in the audience. Received a letter from the Elm Research Institute out of Keene, New Hampshire, looking to see if we're interested in purchasing any elm trees for, and they've provided a quote to us in reference to trees that they have available, what the trees are made out of, so on and so forth. I believe they're a nonprofit organization dedicated to the restoration of the elm tree in the United States, so.
They're resistant to the Dutch elm disease. They've developed a tree that.
Will they put them on private property?
I'm not quite sure about that.
I got a spot where the town killed a tree I could use a tree.
She's looking at me when she says that. The cost is, I guess, would be the carrier charge and the elm, it's a 10-foot elm, is about $124 a tree.
Yeah, I could stand that.
Legislative bulletin from April 6, 2012. Anybody's interested? I've set up emails for you all to receive Representative Connor's information directly to your email address. We also have here a letter from our MMA Risk Management Services and our Property Casualty Pool membership report for the past year. So if anybody's interested in looking at that, it's here. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Approval of accounts payable. I'm back on track, Eleanor.
Well, let's see, are you? Okay. We have one accounts payable warrant. It is town warrant number 1241, and the amount is $568,350.61. And I make a motion that we accept the accounts payable warrant as presented to us.
Second it. Yep. All those in favor?
You get a second?
Yep.
Oh.
I did. Oh, wait a minute, wait, you got some more there.
No, there's two payroll warrants. We don't have to accept those. We have to pay those.
They're part of the warrant. You do have to sign them all, though.
Yeah, you have to sign
Have
them.
you signed them?
They're all signed.
Oh, okay.
They're all part of our total warrant.
Report of committees, two committees which I happen to be chair of both, unfortunately. One is the idle use properties. We took a walking tour of the property that was deeded over to the town back some time ago, and it's off from, it's between Sullivan and Old Pine Hill and Logan Street, basically. There is some wetlands in there. There is also some conditions put on that property to not disturb those. And anything that's done there has to go through the Department of Environmental Department at the state, which makes a lot of sense because it is conceivable somebody could go in there and really do a number on things. In taking a walk through there, there is quite a lot of highland and there is quite a lot of timber in that area. Jay Wheeler, made some recommendations and we're looking at the possibility of putting some walking paths in that area. And it's something that I think all of you feel up to it some Saturday before too long. It would be good to take a walk through there. It's a kind of a pretty spot. There is some issues as access. One access route is only 30 feet wide, which doesn't meet town standards, but it could be a walking entrance. There's one off from, basically across from the library. That area looks to be pretty good. There is some wetlands right there. About a month ago, 6 weeks ago, or thereabouts, we were contacted by Kennebunk, who had received a lot of manufactured lumber, and it was free to anybody that wanted to haul it. So I met with the town engineer and the town highway. They went down and picked up a couple of 100 2x4s that are 16-foot long that would make very good bridges, walking bridges. I'm sure they're going to outlaw three-wheelers and four-wheelers and dirt bikes and that kind of thing. I don't think they'll permit that, and rightfully so if it's going to be walking paths. But nevertheless, that project is taking on a reasonable shape in the sense that there is a Boy Scout that is working for his Eagle badge and putting pathways through after it's marked out would be a good project for him. Not just him, but the group that he works with. So that's something that we'll review when we get to that point. We're not at that point at this point. The other committee is the Community Center Committee. At the last meeting, I suggested that we not do anything at that point, only because we are running against some difficulties in the legal side of things. And if those are straightened out, then we could move forward. But right at the present, it's at a standstill, unfortunately. The building will be there. Hopefully it won't be damaged any further than it is. And the committee was notified of this when we had our meeting. And at any time, the meetings are always posted. And if anybody would like to go, they're more than welcome. So that's something that's readily available. Anybody else have any? Do you have any committee meetings?
No.
Okay, I guess that takes care of the committees. Unfinished business, approval of the co-council. The co-council, there were a number of discussions, or there were some discussions on who might be a good co-counsel. There were several names brought up, and at this point I'd entertain a motion to go in whatever direction you care to go in.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve of a co-counsel, because I think we need one.
Okay,
I'll second that.
second it, yeah, those in favor? Do you want to name a co-counsel at this point?
I don't know anyone to name that is qualified. I'm not capable of choosing a co-counsel. I don't think it's.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What happened to the other recommendations that were made? I know that there were names that came from different names. I just don't know whether there was any consideration given to those or not.
Yes, well, I looked them up, and I found them all three to be, appropriate.
Well qualified?
They're qualified individuals. At least, I'm not a lawyer either.
Yeah, library, yeah.
Brian, I think you checked into one that,
Yeah, I did as much research as I could on all three names and got some information on the three names, and certainly had no objection to any of them.
does anybody care to recommend a name?
Well, I guess I'd ask if anybody has been contacted in terms of willingness to be co-counsel, other than the recommendation that was given.
I believe they have. And that's my understanding.
All three of them?
As I understand it, from your meeting, you agreed to hire co-counsel. You also provided parameters that there was a list to be developed, and the list would go 1, 2, and 3. The first name on the list, as reviewed, was Brian Dench from a law firm, I think it's Skelton, Trader, and Abbott out of Lewiston, was the one that was being recommended by your attorney, as he discussed with you at this point. And that I think is the top of the list. And there were two others that were listed. I think there was one, Mr. Hole and Mr. Parkinson. The thought process was that both of those gentlemen did not come from a large enough firm to provide the support staff and the clout that would be necessary to defend the town in this litigation. And I believe at this particular point, we're searching to try to get some direction from you to hire the co-counsel and to move forward.
Well, I know that I made a recommendation, or at least threw a name out there of a firm in Portland, Jensen, Baird, Gardner, and Henry. I didn't even hear that name come up in this bunch.
I don't recall that name.
What was the name?
The firm is Jensen, Baird, Gardner, and
Yeah, I've
Henry.
heard of them.
Yeah, they used to be counsel for the town of Sanford, and they now go with, I think, the firm that this attorney is dealing with. But they have a municipal services department at Jensen, Baird, Gardner, and Henry as well. And there are a couple of attorneys that have been there a while. One is Bill Dale, and the other one's Sally Daggett. There's also a whole bunch. I mean, that was the suggestion that I had made, and I don't hear that anywhere.
So which one of those attorneys would you suggest?
I think the firm itself.
Just the firm itself and have them, the municipal part of that firm?
Yeah, but that's why I'd asked if anybody else had been contacted, because I don't know
Nobody's
if anybody's
mentioned it
willing
to
to.
me.
Well, now, this court that's coming up tomorrow or Thursday, just what
They're requesting of the court the removal of the stop work order
Yeah.
that's been placed on it.
now, do we need a co-counsel in place for that?
Your counsel has indicated very strongly that he would like to have co-counsel to take the lead in this case. He would be lead counsel in this case, and he would be, Attorney Shepherd would be a supporting counsel because of his knowledge of the case, as well as the information and the background information that he's received and done to date.
Do you feel very strongly, Ernie, that with, their name I remember is Henry, by something, Henry.
You know, I mean, it's,
And I've heard of that firm, because I've
yeah,
never met any of them, but I have, through the legislature, met some of the others that have come
Right,
before our committee.
I mean, my experience I had when I was in Sanford was a while ago, so I mean, I know they're a reputable firm, but again, you have a court date tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know how you deal with that, that's tomorrow.
I know it. What do you think?
I know that Attorney Dench was the number one name that was listed as a preference. I did spend a lot of time looking at trying to find history on him, and it seems he has an extensive amount of experience in municipalities that deal regularly with these types of housing projects, et cetera, in both cities and counties that tend to deal with high amounts of low-income housing. And it certainly looked like from his resume that he had a lot of hands-on experience with that. I certainly have no objection to moving forward with Mr. Dench as an attorney based on his resume and apparent availability going forward. Certainly, if there's any objection, that's open to further discussion as well. But I think it's in the best interest of the town to move forward with someone else as the lead attorney. And I have no objection to Mr. Dench in that position. Therefore, I would feel comfortable motioning that we approve Mr. Dench as lead counsel in this case going forward.
So he will definitely be lead counsel?
Yes.
I'd second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Well, the only thing is, if we're not happy with him, we can always fire him and get another counsel.
You can.
That's the way it works, right?
Any further discussion? If not, those in favor? Motion is carried. The next item is trees on Pine Hill Road. They've moved some back.
Cut him down?
No,
Yeah,
No, they moved them back.
if I may, yes, we had, there's a bunch of trees that were planted in the right of way. At this particular juncture, 4 of them have been moved back.
Now, what you mean by back?
They've been moved out of the right of way into the property owner's property.
And they don't,
And as a result of that, both the town engineer and I went up and used the MDOT standards for site distance based on speed and location. And presently, the appropriate amount of site distance is available with the movement of those, that shrubbery, or those trees. We've also sent an email on to the property owner requesting that the remainder of the trees be moved out of the right-of-way. But I wanted to let you know that right now, as it stands, there's a appropriate amount of site distance for the traveling public to negotiate. But we are still working to get the rest of them removed.
okay, did you happen to drive a pickup truck? One of the big, I guess I'd call it 250s, but, whatever, each.
What happens is that,
Because the front end, if it goes out, they have to go out too far.
what happens
I did.
as the standard is established at the stop sign is, you have to have an individual at a height of 35 inches. And they have to look up the road at that distance until they lose sight of the person on the other end with a stick with a ribbon on it to find out where in the middle of the road you lose sight of them. And
Okay.
we were well over 310 feet, which was well within the standard that's placed
So
by.
that must have been close to the stop sign by Knox Lane.
Yeah, we were up that way,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will check it out.
Okay, so our plan right now, Selectman Murphy, is to move the remaining of them out of the right-of-way. We're gonna work, hopefully with the homeowner to accomplish that.
Okay.
It ended up where the owner of the property was pretty cooperative.
Yes, he
moved
was.
them back. So I think that probably will happen. Speed bumps on First Street have been installed.
Yes, I went up first thing Monday morning, and
You almost ruined the front end of your car.
our foreman was installing them.
Okay. Website upkeep and responsibility. Keith, you want to
Just
to that?
to let you know that there were some very good suggestions that were made by public comment at your last business meeting discussing the fact that we need somebody within our staff that is solely responsible for the content and the upkeep of that. We've assigned our planning coordinator to accomplish that. In the past, we all did those efforts. The recreation department, some of the town office staff, we all had a part in it. So we're going to assign that to Joan to accomplish that. We'll also look at ways of making it more user-friendly. We've heard those concerns from time to time that it isn't friendly enough to access to get information. So we'll look at ways with our vendor in order to accomplish that as well. And I'll keep you posted if we make changes in the website to ensure that gets, those things get done.
All set with that one? The Maine Department of Transportation, the speed limit up on Cemetery Road. I know we've had folks here early on this spring
Well,
that were concerned about that speed up there.
early on this spring, it was July 19th, 2011, was when they came to our first meeting. I mean, it's getting close, well, it isn't a year yet, but it's creeping right up
Got a
there.
ways to go.
I can't imagine it takes DOT a whole year, or close to it, to reduce the speed limit. And
According to the memo that was provided to you from the police chief, he's been in contact with MDOT again, indicating there are concerns. Brian Keyser was the head engineer who has now moved on, and the position that the survey has been given to Derek Olson, who's handling it. He was indicated that 9 to 10 months can pass before the survey actually takes place. So they're very slow in getting back and getting to us, but it is in the trail to be done. The police chief will continue to monitor. He'll wait 2 weeks, and then he'll contact MDOT again to find a status, and we'll continue to stay on top of it. And as soon as we have typically what will happen is there will probably be an MDOT vehicle up on Cemetery Road with radar, checking speeds, so on and so forth, and making a list, and then they'll come back with a recommendation. So we'll stay on top of it, and I'll keep you advised as we move through it as to what the end result is.
well, I came down from Thompson Hill Road to come down Cemetery Road the other day, and believe me, I'm no slowpoke on the road, but somebody passed me, and I mean, they were more than moving out. And that said to myself, well, where is the speed limit change that these people want? And I certainly understand. And it was been 9 months or so. You talk about being slow. I don't call that slow. I call that worse than slow. And it seems if the state DOT, really, because in a year, there's a lot of children up there, and we could have lost one of them. And I think that we ought to put it, I don't know, call our state representative. And our senator is chairman of the Transportation Committee. Maybe I'll give Ron a call, ask him what he's doing up there.
Well, I know one thing is the fellow that came here,
Yeah,
he's being replaced.
yeah, I know he's being replaced, but that doesn't, that shouldn't slow down anything. Somebody steps right in. I'm sure that wasn't.
That's the thing, they haven't filled that position.
Yeah, they have with Olson.
I know, but the Olson was taken out of MODT from another area.
I'm sure they got plenty of help that they could have put somebody on it. Remember, I spent a few years up there. I just think it takes a long time, and I don't think it should take almost a year to get a speed limit. And it didn't used to take that long. I'm just complaining.
That's perfectly all right.
But we should hear back within Chief Town said he was gonna call him back in 2 weeks from the date of your email, which was April 5th, so we should have information probably back by our next meeting.
Probably the same information.
Well, that may be the case, but we still should have something.
Okay, anything else on this issue? The next item is an all boards meeting. It was recommended at a public meeting that we had, invite all the boards to come together and discuss their responsibilities and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, if I may,
Sure.
Chairman Haley provided to me a document that was developed by Selectman O'Connor. We took that document that seemed to be well-written and very precise. We put it on town letterhead. We submitted it to all of our boards and committees via email to encourage them the things that were identified within the letter, as well as to indicate to them that in the near future, this board will be holding a workshop with all of our boards and committees to get them together and to discuss mutual ideas and things along the line. So that has been sent at this point, and I think at some future date here, we're gonna want to establish a date that you're gonna wanna meet in workshop session with your boards and committees to discuss it.
I think that was brought up in the past year by me, not only to meet on board, but also for the 3 towns to meet, like we used to. Or 4 towns, we used to include Lebanon, the 3 Berwicks and Lebanon, to sit down and discuss common things. We did that for years, and in fact, West Farnham and South Berwick, myself, came from Augusta to those meetings. So we did it when I was on the board in the early 70s, in the late 70s, I should say.
you're discussing your age now. I mean,
Am I hearing from this board that's something that you want to be pursued at this point? To try to coordinate those, what we call tri-Berwick meetings, but as Selectman Murphy did say, Lebanon was included in that. And generally, what occurred at it, as the ones that I experienced, is that if there were any legislative decisions that were made by the current legislature, we tried to have representatives from the legislature there to explain those bills and how they may affect us. That was one avenue. The second avenue was, are there mutually regional efforts that we can do together that would enhance our ability to deliver services to our community members, as well as reduce our costs. And we've done a little bit of that already with South Berwick in some respects. But that was another issue that was always discussed. So if it's the pleasure of the board, I can entertain some discussions with with the managers and the chairman of the Lebanon Board of Selectmen to see how, helpful they want to be, or how, if they want to get together here soon, or do you want to wait?
How long has it been since one of those has been done?
The last one done was here, and it's been a while. Yeah.
If it's been several years and they were productive when you were having them, I would think that at least trying to get another one together, maybe they wouldn't have to be every year, but certainly if it's been several years, I would.
We used to do it every so many months.
Right, there was a rotating
Rotating
schedule.
schedule,
Berwick held the last one, so there'd be
Quarterly, or-
another town that would, and generally what happens is that it would be during that dinner time, and it would be an informal gathering, and the host municipality would supply food. There would be that going on, as well as discussions, and there would be an agenda with topics to discuss.
I think anytime we can get together with another municipality or group another municipalities and throw some ideas around might be a positive experience.
Well, I think it was very positive, I really do. With a lot of, we have some problems that we all have, and we do. The center of Berwick is right in there, South Berwick, North Berwick, and Berwick, and it's right down on, just off Route 4, the center of the 3 towns. And so it's an area that we're all concerned with down there, and we used to discuss Route 4, because there's a lot of businesses growing up on it. And there's some in Berwick, some in North Berwick, and some in South Berwick, for that matter. They're all, Route 4 is all 3 towns, actually.
What are you suggesting for a time frame that Keith could work at?
I think
Well,
if you just send out an inquiry at this
Yeah.
point to see if any of the other
I'm
municipalities are
just looking
interested.
for a tentative kind of thing. You want to do it this fall, or?
Oh, no, I
probably.
don't know if we should, think we should wait till fall?
It's up to you.
Judy, how often, we used to meet,
I think it was every 3 months or something.
yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, it was quarterly.
It was quarterly, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you was on the board when we met, Peg.
Yeah.
And it was productive, I think,
Very productive,
yeah.
What's that?
very productive.
I'll send out the inquiries. See
Or
what
we
we
could
get,
just
and I'll
invite
keep you
'em.
reported.
Yeah, we could just invite them.
Believe me, if it's food, they'll come.
We'll send out an inquiry and see what the feeling is, and then we can, if it looks like there's some interest, then in 2 weeks, maybe we can send out a specific either invite or try and come up with a specific date.
That sounds
That
like
seems
a,
reasonable.
yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Is that agreeable?
Sounds good.
Alrighty. A review of the bids for the forestry unit. My understanding is that the bids were not acceptable.
Those aren't the forestry bids.
Oh, I thought those were.
Those are the standpipe bids for the water
Oh,
department.
I'm
Get to
sorry.
them later.
I'm sorry. There was a item here, and I think everybody has a copy of it.
It says forestry, doesn't it? It says forestry on a,
Yes,
Forestry.
that's what
Yeah.
he's talking about, yeah.
oh,
Yeah, there
You
was
get
there was a review and recommendation that was done by the fire department indicating that the
Oh,
bids
yeah,
that they received were too high, based on the money that we had. I was under the impression we had 182, and it's not, it's 125. And I believe the lowest bid they received was somewhere around the $178,000 range. So the fire department went ahead and redid their bids, and I provided you a copy tonight of the new bid documents that have been sent out
That's this one here.
to the folks. We are now in the process of getting new bids based on the new specifications, and we'll provide, once those bids come in, we'll provide, it looks like the resubmit and the return date is May 1st, so that'll be in another couple weeks, and you'll be able to open those and take a look at those, and then give them to the fire department to make a review, a thorough review, and another recommendation, one way or the other, on those bids.
well, how can they reduce their specs?
They had to modify their specifications based on the information that they
What
provided initially.
modifications would they be making?
Well, you'll have to look at the bid specifications, I
Instead
think
of
in
buying
the,
a Cadillac about a Ford.
The last page.
I
is
think in the last
changes.
page provided you some review of that.
Read that.
We'll just-
Oh, they're changing from diesel to gas? Diesel. I don't know. I guess it's okay. I don't know much about Humvees.
So that's already been sent out, the
Right,
new
we've
bid
resubmitted that
package.
package, we're now waiting for those documents to come in. I wanted to provide to you a copy of the bid package, so you had an idea of what went out. And we will be coming back to you with those packages to be opened once again for your review, and hopefully a review by the fire department.
Any other unfinished business? Brian? Any? Elma?
No, I don't have any.
On to new business,
I think of.
The appointment of election clerks. Judy, would you care to explain that process?
Every 2 years, the political parties are to submit names in their processes, submit names to the town clerk, of people who would like to be, work at the polls, for their parties. I requested some names, and they provided them to me. I also added a few that, that I like, and if there's anybody that you would want to add on, you could do that. but it's by law that you do that every 2 years. You have a list of people who have worked with you.
How many
It has
do
to be
you,
approved by the board.
how many do you use at an election on the average?
Well, usually, maybe 8. Some, we place others, they don't stay all day. I mean, when you have a 6 o'clock in the morning election till 8, I have some diehards that will stay there the whole time. Others
Where
don't,
was that
you know.
farm from, on that
And I have
Humvee?
cover for lunches and so forth, and I have to keep
Change
my balance
specification.
of Democrats to Republicans. And I
Did he give it to us tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
So
That's not it.
do you approve these individually, or do you approve them
I
as
would,
a
I would
block?
think you would approve the recommendation that Judy comes up with. Anybody care to make that a
Make a
motion?
motion to do that?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded. Any discussion? If not, those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
The renewal for a massage license. And
Just
it-
provided you just a quick letter from the town clerk based on a massage therapy license and an establishment license for owner Maureen Townsend on 295 Route 236. The CEO has checked on this and ensured that all the proper paperwork and fees have been submitted. And Maureen has been operating her business for over 9 years at her location. And, it would be our recommendation to approve the license renewal as submitted by the memo.
Anybody care to make that motion?
So
I'll
moved.
move it.
Seconded? Fine, between the two of you.
Whatever, whoever.
And those, any discussion, further discussion? If not, those in favor? That's passed. Assessors return signatures required. This is something I think, Keith, you can explain
gonna
perhaps.
make
Right,
it a lot
I
more
think I can
expensive to-
explain it. And we'll be getting into a couple things here, and I want to take the opportunity just to introduce our assessors that are contracted with the town of Berwick. Scott Marsh is here. He's to the gentleman to the right with the white shirt and the tie. And to his left is Mike Pelletier. Mike is more of our day-to-day or twice-a-week provider for our services here, and Scott is the oversee. But this documentation that you have here really doesn't pertain as much to them, even though it says assessors return on it. It's specifically for your benefit as assessors. And what it is a information that has been provided to you by the York County Commissioners based on their budget, indicating that as of the 21st of March 2012, the town's proportion for the operation of county government will be $319,309.39. The assessor's return is indicative of that number and provides there when the money is to be available to them, which is somewhere around the first day of September of 2012, and the taxes not paid as of the 31st of October will be considered delinquent, and there would be a compounding of 7% annually if we don't pay our bill. This is typically a bill that we receive yearly, and as you go through the budget process, you will see that we'll have 3 distinct areas that that you'll be reviewing, or at least will know about when you're setting the tax rate. One that you exclusively have authority over, and that would be the establishment of your own town warrant for your municipal operating budget. Then there'll be a number in there for the county government operation, and then there'll be a number provided to you by SAD 60 as our portion to operate the schools. And so that will make up our total cost.
How big an increase is this?
I'm not sure. I have
Seems
not looked
like
at
it
it.
was just a few years ago, it was 89,000, and now it's 319.
The,
And I know last year, they,
The finance director's there, she's recognizing, you wanna know how much it's increased. It was 313 last year, if I read it correctly.
Okay, well, do we have a copy of their budget? They must have passed it in order to get this figure.
Yes, I believe it's in my office, right? And they came in a while ago, and I believe it's still in the file if you need to
Okay,
take
I
a
would like
look
to
at
see,
it.
because last year, when they did their budget, they, some of the services that they provided for the, you know, like, what they gave out to
There's social service
abused women
agencies.
and
Yep.
things like that. They cut in half and made the statement they weren't gonna do any of those this year. They had a whole list. So I'm wondering if they have cut those out and still increased this amount. That's what I guess my question is, and I would like to see that budget to see what they've done. Because,
Janet, it's roughly a $6,000 increase, is that correct?
yeah, but even so,
Roughly 6,000, yeah. No, I was just trying to establish.
yeah,
What the
it's an
difference is.
increase. And if they've cut out their services, those services are gonna come back on the towns more, too. They always do.
Isn't that
I will certainly provide you a copy of their budget, so you can take a look at.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that.
This assessor's return, however, I would entertain a motion in a second to approve it. Even though you can have a review of their budget has been
There's
approved.
nothing we can do about it,
There's nothing we
except call them up and scream at them.
We have a
Motion.
motion,
I'll motion.
Second.
right, seconded. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor, raise your right hand.
I'll pass it around so you can sign it, and we'll get it to the treasurer, or to the finance director, excuse me. Yeah, anywhere on those lines, yeah.
I served with Frank in the legislature, I know. I served with Frank Wood in the legislature. He was a senator. He was our senator from this area when I went.
There you are, my dear. The next item is the preliminary 2013 state valuation report. And that's the revenue services. I think you all have a copy of that. Better don't.
And Scott Marsh is here to try to, if you have any specific questions, we'll try to get those answered for you. As I understand it, and Scott, chime in if I'm misleading them in any way, the Maine Revenue Service comes down and reviews documentation provided to them by us to determine what our state valuation will be, or what they'll certify for the upcoming year. They look at the data, they provide these documents to us for review, and right now, we're in that preliminary review stage. If we have any specific questions or something comes up that you need answers to, hopefully we'll try to answer them as best we can.
I do have one. When you do this, do you take into account the short sales, or do you have any way of knowing about them?
The short sale, yes, we do know about some of them, we don't know about all of them, but those are not considered honestly, those are not included in the analysis that's done either by the state or at our local level.
And they're not, but shouldn't they be included?
Oh, well, not, what we try to use is arm's length sales, which is between a buyer and a seller with no undue influence.
A willing buyer and a willing seller?
With no undue,
But
circumstances.
still, the property is sold for short sales quite a bit less.
Yes, it can be. And that's why we don't use them, because they really don't reflect the market as a whole. If that's all we had occurring in the community, then I would agree with you that maybe they would have more weight, but in this case, That's not what every
You-
sale is, that is occurring here in town.
You
so
don't,
nobody
no,
wants-
but I think there's a few, I know.
Yes, there are some.
Yeah,
yes.
you don't think that that sets the value of the home?
No.
When, because it could be assessed very high. I mean, if you're putting something for sale, you can go down, but you can't go up, so you put a good high price on it, and then you can do if you owe money on it, naturally, you have to have, the banks have to be involved in it to do a short sale.
Yeah, and the time frame that gets involved in those type of things, those are all considerations to the buyers, and that's why they end up selling for less money typically than other properties, just like a bank.
I'm not so sure it's a consideration for the buyers, it's a consideration for the seller, because they owe more than its value is worth.
But going through the bank as a buyer on the other end of it, the buyer's going through the process becomes a lot more difficult for them, because now they're not only negotiating with the actual seller, they're also negotiating with the seller's financing company. So,
Oh, yeah, that's
so
true.
it becomes a big issue there, and that's one of the reasons why they're not considered arm-length transactions or considered, and that's a pretty standard, process that's used. Those aren't included in any analysis throughout most of this area.
Do you have any idea how many of those sales might be done in this community?
We could get that information for you, we can give you a rough idea, I would guess it's probably in the low 5% range,
Uh,
but I'm not positive.
That's 5% of total sales, or?
Yeah, in this case, I know since last July 1st to now, we've had like 32 sales.
Where are they recorded? Are they recorded in Alfred?
Yeah, all the reported, the short sales themselves though, when we do our investigation, which we review all the sales that occur in town, check through the MLS service, multiple listing service, talk to the brokers, talk to sellers,
Oh,
talk to
okay.
buyers. That's where we find out that information, whether or not it's a short sale. When it's recorded and the deed comes in, there is no information telling us it's a short
Well,
sale.
I didn't think so, because I had a member in the family that bought a home on
Yeah.
about 3-4 years ago, on a short
So
sale.
usually you end up getting a good buy and, especially in today's market, so.
Yeah,
Sure.
So this 107%, does this mean that the average selling price is 7% lower than the assessed value? Is that what I'm reading it?
Yeah, it's an assessment to sale price ratio compared to the assessments, and yes, in this case, the assessments is 7% higher than the sale prices on average for those properties. Of course, there's always a range.
Sure.
Some are closer and some aren't. The other analysis that they've done here is they've gone through and checked all the town's records and all of those type of things to make sure the assessing office is functioning properly. And based off of their review by Dave Bufard, the Department of Revenue, everything's in good shape overall. Ratio is getting a little bit higher, but it's been that way for several years. That's just the southern New England market that's happening.
Is the southern New England market, how do I want to put this, on the same level as the country? Because the Kiplinger's business information paper, which I got for years, it said that the average homes are down 35% countrywide.
Yeah, that's countrywide now. And this area, southern Maine, southern New Hampshire, has fairly well compared to other areas of the country. I know Florida, Arizona, Las Vegas, those areas are seeing 50 and 60% decreases in property values. We haven't seen that here. And it appears right now, again, this is preliminary, don't know where the market's going, but that the decline has slowed. It's still going down, but it's not going down at the same rate.
So
that
what
it was.
percentage would you say it was here?
Right now, on an annual basis?
Well, yeah, what it has been in the past year
Well,
or
it's been
so.
running about 5 or 6% is what we're seeing throughout most of our communities. The values have been going down by, this area here and some others, I'm only seeing a 1 or 2% decline is what we're seeing.
Well, on houses that are sold, that they're only 1 or 2% below what they're assessed at?
No, that's on an annual change. The ones we're seeing now are at 107%, 108% is what we're seeing on average.
So what would you say the percentage was across the board,
Well, we were sort of-
since this recession? That our values have dropped?
Well, it depends on when you want to go back to what point we're starting at. Are we back to 2003 values? I'm
Oh,
not
no,
sure.
no, I don't want to go back to that because things were going pretty good back then.
But I mean, I don't know if the decline has gone all the way back there. I know last time we checked, we were in the 2004, 2005 bracket, where sale prices at that point in time are very similar
Oh,
to
so
what
you're
they are
not,
now.
you're not up to date? You're not up to what, 8, 9, 10, 11?
Well, no, what properties are selling for today, or the last time we compared them, was comparable to what they were selling for at the very beginning of the decline, back in the 2004 time period. So a property selling today for $100,000 probably sold back in '03 or '04, '05 for that $100,000. In between that time, it may have sold for 160 or 120 or whatever it may be in between, but that's kind of the trend we've seen. But if you'd like specific information on that, just let us know and we can definitely research that. We do have all the records available. We have a computerized assessing program that can pull all these reports together, the specific information you're looking for.
No, I'm just, it's general information.
Any other questions?
This will be the figure that the state uses to, when they apply the school funding formula.
Yeah, that's why they equalize your value down to 100%, is so that they can put everybody on that level playing field. We're at 107%, another community might be at 110, 12, whatever it may be.
There is no pending action on this, unless you saw something that, or the questions that couldn't be answered, that you need further clarification. We can get a hold of the property tax division, and they can come down and talk to you, or we can gather further information if you need it.
Anybody else?
No,
Preliminary 2000 state that we've got that one. Appointment of request planning board alternates. There were, I believe,
There were three that we've received. Two of them we've had for a while. Mr. Niles Shore, who introduced himself this evening. Mr. Derek White, who has indicated an interest to serve as an alternate. And Mr. Ken Poirier, who has provided information to the town. And as you well know, Ken, as you've been going through the election process for selectmen. So we've gone ahead and provided all the appropriate notices. I've provided you a copy of the notice that was posted, as well as the notices that appeared in the paper. I've tried to provide to you the resumes or the background information that was provided to me by the applicants. And you have that information, and I didn't see Mr. White walk in tonight, but Mr. Poirier and Mr. Shore are here this evening. If you wish to ask them specific questions prior to taking any action on appointing alternatives to your planning board.
Mr. Chair, when I approach you, I have some information written down.
sure.
Thank you, sir.
they're alternates right now. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poirier.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ken. And what is the feeling of the board? You want to, excuse me. We're open for nominations to the planning board, and these would be alternate positions. My understanding is they would fill in if somebody would be unable to attend a meeting.
Or, yes, that would be, or if there's a conflict that,
Right.
as a result, as to the full-time membership. The alternates are a working group to the board. They sit with the board as they discuss matters, and they only vote and enter into discussion if in fact they need to be recognized because another board member is not serving.
How many openings are there for alternates?
There are two. We have two openings. Right now, we have a five-member board with no alternates. So the alternates are yearly positions. Generally, they're reappointed yearly. And these positions would assist you to get through until your next appointments. Oftentimes, alternates are a vital part of the process, and when there's an opening on the board, where somebody is stepping aside, generally an alternate is asked first if they wish to serve, so we can keep that smooth transition into one other member on the board.
Well, I'd like to nominate Mr. Shore for one of the alternate positions.
Anybody care to second that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Mr. Shore has been nominated. Is that position?
Mr. Shore, if I may, just
Sure.
to direct, I believe you'll have to come in and see the clerk, or do you, to get sworn in and to file a piece of paper, necessary paperwork, and we'll get in contact with you, so when that's ready, you can come in and see her. And thank you for your service.
I would nominate
Judy, do you have his address and information?
I'll get it from you.
I want to make sure, kind of hard to...
I do, I have that and a phone number.
Oh, okay.
I'll nominate Mr. Poirier.
Mr. Poirier. Anyone care to second that? Yep.
Okay, I'll second that.
Made and seconded, Ken Poirier as an alternate of the planning board. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Janice, you have information that on action on foreclosures that it would appear to me that it would be helpful if you would chime in any time to go over. The first one I have you got this sheet?
Well, you had, yeah, you had an original that was in your packet, and then Janet provided an update to that as of today, and I double-sided it, so you had one that I provided to you today.
Are they both
And
the
I-
same?
I think they're slightly different because they've been updated since March, so, but Janet's here to answer your questions if you have any specifics on these pending foreclosures. I think she's tried to embellish within the document she's provided to you some thought process of what's happening, and we can go from there.
Does the board feel like we'd like to take these as an individual and go down through them?
I think we have to.
Okay. Is that good with you, Ernie? Brian?
Yes.
Okay. The first one is Linda Brake. She signed a letter on January 19th.
That was her letter offering to sell the property back to her after it was foreclosed on.
And you haven't heard from her since, huh, Jana?
Do you think she's sick or anything?
I don't know, the assessor's office has tried to contact her, I've tried to contact her, we have not been able to.
Really? Whereabouts is this property physically? I know it's a lot map number. Do you have a?
That's the one Scott that provided.
I can show it to you on that. Tax map.
was it Woodland Road, off Woodland Road?
Janice, I'm wondering if,
199 Long Swamp Road.
Oh, on Long Swamp Road.
oh, okay. I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to send a registered letter with a return.
We have sent many registered letters, I have them all here, ones that you signed for and everything. I sent the police up before the foreclosure with a hand-delivered letter.
And no response.
Certainly no complaint.
Does she have a phone number?
We couldn't find one.
Couldn't find one. I don't know the person.
So there was no response when the
But
police
it is a home.
officer?
No. No. There was a hand-carried letter, and he gave it in hand to her on 12/27, telling her that the foreclosure was gonna take place and the date and everything.
It's not her house.
And that's after
It's not, it's just
receiving
land.
3 certified letters, of which she signed for.
Oh. And yet, no
How
response.
big a lot is it?
Hold on.
Not big. Maybe, yeah, about 3 or 4 acres. It was a couple weeks before I do so.
It's hard to remember exactly.
And knowing Long Swamp Road, I was wondering if it was swampy
From
and unbuildable.
my interpretation,
90,000 square feet, 2.14
yeah.
acres.
Okay.
From my indication, it was, she has 2 deeds. She subdivided her property in a process of granting that property that she subdivided off to the subdivision behind her. That process didn't go through, and she still had 2 pieces of property, her residence and the property around her.
And she's paid taxes on the residents
She
and
paid
not,
taxes on the resident, but not the property around her.
That's what I was asking you about when I first looked at it. Yeah, because we couldn't find a piece of property.
Yeah, it wasn't indicated on the tax map.
Yeah, right, yeah.
These tax maps are old.
Well, what's the wishes of the board?
If it's possible, can we get copies of the tax maps on these things so we know where they are? I mean,
I think probably, yeah.
I have copies of
It's a real peculiar circumstance because it's a piece of property.
May I ask
Yeah.
a question to Selectman Creveling? Will getting a tax map tonight prohibit you from agreeing to the recommendation that's being laid out here by the finance director, that we continue the process of looking at title search, or do you feel that you'd like to take a look at that first?
well, I'd like to know what it is, we're making a decision on. I mean, I don't have a problem with a title search, but
Do you wish for us to recess to get all those tax maps for you? So you have them tonight?
no.
no, but I think we can table this till the next meeting because they're gonna do a title search on it anyway. To see if they've notified us, so it's gonna,
I'm not gonna do a title search unless you tell me to.
oh, but you're saying you think we should?
That's what I recommended.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. At least I make a motion that we have the finance director do a title search on
That's
it.
fine. I can second that.
All right, is that agreeable with everybody?
Oh, we got a motion. Did we get a second to that motion?
Sure, I will.
Yep, Brian will second it. Those in favor?
All right, and we'll get the maps. Oh, and we'll make all the maps available to you all, so you have them.
The next one is Lisa Castellano. My understanding that she is in financial difficulty, obviously, and I was contacted by an agent who indicated that they probably would have a sale within 14 days. My recommendation is to carry this till the next meeting and act on it at that point in time. If it's sold, fine. If it isn't, then action could be taken. Is that agreeable?
Well, I just want to say that there's an
Yeah.
IRS has been notified, they have till May 24 to.
Actually settle up. Yeah.
Respond to that, so we can't do anything till May 24th anyway.
If we
Well,
foreclose
if it
on,
was sold and paid off, we could. If, what I'm saying is that if the property was changed hands,
I mean, if we sold it,
no, if she sold it,
yeah,
the IRS would get their take, we'd get our take. Whatever was left would go to her.
yeah.
So it doesn't have to go to the 24th. I'm just saying, my understanding,
I'm saying we can't do anything.
Right.
till the 24th.
right, we
We
can't,
can sell the
right,
property if we agree to it, because technically we own the property right now.
you know. So that would be my recommendation, that we hold off doing anything until the next.
So would it be, I think I'd entertain a motion in a second that you would have no objections to her actively seeking to sell her property. And in doing so, we would then be made whole.
Right.
And then whatever other things that she has to do with the IRS or anybody else would have to be on her. But it would make us whole and we'd be out of this. So that would be what I would,
I'll move that motion, because, well,
Yeah,
What happens if it
okay.
doesn't sell?
we.
then we're back here, we
foreclose and
wait
we
till
have
the
to pay
24th.
Okay.
And then we're in the process of acquiring tax-acquired property and following our policy that we have available to us.
Okay.
Do we have to pay off the IRS the 14,000?
No, I don't believe we have.
But if we acquire it, if they're not paid off,
No,
No.
we do not, we come before any lien.
where is she? I can't see you.
We come before any lien, Ellen.
Okay, yeah, we do, but then, well, yeah, so I don't know.
We have to notify them.
Yeah, I don't know how the government
And they
works on
can
something
pay
like this.
us off if they wanna, but we come first.
Yeah, I know that,
You mean to tell me we come before the federal government? That's an unheard of situation. Normally, they got their hand right out there in good shape.
don't worry, they'll do something to get it.
Yeah.
So
And the motion has been made by Eleanor and seconded by Ernie.
Sure.
And those in favor? Aye. This next one, Avis Court. Is she here?
She's deceased.
She's
thought
here
she was
in,
here.
she's here in Seoul.
Well, that could be.
The abutter or the executor has no interest. Jesus, that's not a very good statement.
That's her daughter.
Uh-huh.
That's her daughter, Dolly Blood.
Evidently, they're not interested in it, so I guess it's something that we probably will end up with.
I know this is over on Route 9, I believe, isn't it,
Yes,
Janet? Is this got a building on it, a home?
hold on,
Is that where Avis lived?
hold on.
Excuse me.
I don't have a card anymore.
You know, I think that's probably what it is. But if they don't want it, the town owns it.
Then
Well, I
I-
have a signed, thing from Dolly Blood saying that they're
Yeah, that they're not interested.
And they have no interest, right, okay.
I would make a recommendation that we follow the
Tax
tax-acquired property policy under 3.5 and all of Article 4, which indicates that we should acquire seal bid process and procedure to follow.
The new one we did,
That's correct.
okay, 3 bids. Well, I'll move that we do that, because they're not interested.
Do you want a second motion? Oh.
Sure, I'll second. Just in time.
Well, that's an emergency mission, we don't
Right,
get nervous
This one
about
we're
that.
gonna sell the condo
Okay. Those in favor?
policy.
Linwood Collins, evidently this chap has made an installment contract with you, Janice?
Yeah, well, the board signed that, you for recording. He is making his payments as stated in the contract, and when that's all done, we'll give him a deed back to his property.
But he's making those payments, right? That's what I thought, yeah. So that one is pretty clear cut, I think. I don't think we have to worry about taking the issue with that. Pamela Elliott,
There's no action required
and
on
that
this one.
property tax has been paid by the bank. Evidently, the bank holds a mortgage, and so that one is taken care of pretty much. Amy Fradzham and Todd Berge. Oh boy, they're in a bankruptcy court. That ends that issue for the time being anyway. Joseph McDonough and Becky Durant. They have entered into this kind of contract, and they're willing to pay $200 a month.
We were waiting for the full board.
Is there
so we-
any issue with that, any of you folks? Somebody care to make the motion, we go through with that contract? Brian, second, Eleanor, any other discussion? If not, those in favor, raise your right hand, please. Here's another one, bankruptcy. Terrence and Jennifer O'Rourke. Pretty small piece of change, but nevertheless, there's nothing we can do about it. Betty Olette signed a letter saying she would like to repurchase her land. Have heard nothing else from her. I assume you sent notices after notices.
If I may, we have a long-standing land use violation on this property. And
Is that the one up in the pucker bush?
it's way up off of Mayflower Lane. You have to go into Lebanon and then down a dirt road to get
Okay,
to this
okay.
piece of property.
That's been a problem for a number of years.
Yes, we have. We've been to court a couple times and presided some review by the court over it, but it's sort of been in limbo. It would be my recommendation at this point that if Ms. Willett is not willing to work with us, that we go ahead and try to work towards selling this property as is, with the stipulation that it gets cleaned up as part of the purchase agreement.
Conditions, yeah.
There, if you want, I've got photographs of it in my office, and we can talk to the CEO more.
Yeah, if it's that bad, I think maybe we should write her a letter and say that she has to clean it up before we will even consider her repurchasing it.
Just to give you a
And
brief,
I'm trying to think
just to
back
give you
in
some brief
around
history,
2001, 2003, we had problems up there.
just to give you some brief history, we've been down this road with Ms. Willett before, and just before the 12th hour, she's had either friends or relatives that have come forward and paid off the tax to stop any foreclosure on the property. We're at the point now that, so we couldn't exercise these things that I'm explaining to you now to try to get the property cleaned up.
How old a woman is she?
I'm not quite sure.
Do you know, Janet?
She's in her 50s, or she's gotta be close to 60.
So she's not elderly then?
Well, she's in horrible shape. She's not living in town anymore. We have animal abuse issues with her too.
Oh.
The state's been up there a couple of times.
Janet, would it be practical, would it be practical to send her a foreclosure notice to see if that might force? Oh, you've already sent some, okay, all right. Well, I'm inclined to,
A letter to repurchase, and she sent me a note back saying that she would like to repurchase, but I've heard absolutely nothing from her since.
Well, she isn't even living in Berwick.
And there was a hand-delivered notice to her by the police department, too.
Did they find her home?
believe they did.
I've been out there. It is absolute disgrace.
Well, I haven't been out there for years, but I know it was.
Oh.
It used to- it was a-
What is the nature of the
Violation?
They're just land use violations, violation of the junkyard ordinance, along with other things related to that. I would make a suggestion that we move forward and put it on a list to follow the provisions of 3.5 and Article 4, and put the property out to sealed bid.
How do you feel
with the
about that?
condition that the cleanup is included in the, I mean, that's the only thing I'd be concerned about is,
I hate to tell you this, but it's doubtful you'll get a bid.
yeah.
It
well,
is
that's-
bad. It's awful
Well, I don't know, you may get a bid from the neighbors.
to clean it. That's a possibility, yeah.
Oh, there are neighbors.
Yes, there's a neighbor in Lebanon, and then as you go by the house, there's a neighbor in Berwick.
And she's not living there?
I don't,
Yes, she
I'm
is.
not quite sure if she's there all the time.
No, she wasn't. We've been looking for her for other things. She's not living there anymore. And it is bad. Bob's right. It's something that you'd see on Hoarders. It's really bad. You can't even drive on the property. It's horrific.
That wasn't the one, Peg, that there was a drug problem up there when we were on the board?
Can we just move on with this?
Well, I want to make sure that we're not being mean.
So I'd make a motion that you follow the policy, but it would be put up to bid as is.
And with a provision that it be cleaned up.
Right.
Okay, I'll second it.
Made and seconded. Those in favor?
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay, and seconded? Okay,
Ellen.
thank you.
The last one's Prime Tanning. Evidently, they're still in, oh boy, they're in bankruptcy, and so that hasn't come out of that yet. So there we are.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, take care of them.
Thank you, Janet.
A bond anticipation, note to pay for coating the standpipe and painting the exterior. Chris, you're familiar.
Yeah, if I just give you a
Sure.
quick background. Again, for our new members who do not know Chris Wiseman is here this evening. He's our chief operator in our water department, and he has been invaluable to us with the development of the process of taking care of the standpipe, as well as the process on the bond anticipation note. We received some news late today in reference to the bond anticipation note. I was hopeful that we'd be able to get you folks to take some action on that tonight. But we've got a phone conversation that'll be happening tomorrow with our bond counsel, Mr. Bill Fletcher, who believes that the TD Bank bond anticipation note may also require a town meeting vote.
I was just gonna ask that
So-
question. I think it does.
So he's going to look into that for us, and if it does, we will come back to you after giving proper notice to have an open session to hopefully get approval from the townspeople to enter into the bond anticipation note. Now, I'd like to just turn it over to Chris so he can give you an idea of what we're attempting to
To
do,
do that.
how it's going to play out. And then after that, if you don't mind, we have 4 bids that have gone out to bid for the maintenance of the standpipe. They have yet to be opened, and they're in front of the vice chairman now for opening. So after Chris provides some brief analysis of what's happening, we can open the bids, and that'll give us a clearer picture of where we are. And we'll have to wait to get further information for you on the bond anticipation note and how we can move forward.
Yeah, Keith, I don't believe the Board of Selectmen has any right to go into a bond anticipation note without a vote of the legislative body of any town, never mind Berwick. I know any other time we ever did anything like that, it was a legislative body that had to vote it.
Point well
That's
taken.
not a problem, that can be done, I mean, that's,
Well, yeah, it can be, if they want to do it.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Chris will just give you a brief review of what's happening. Thanks, Chris.
Are you mainly interested in the physical issues of the condition of the standpipe and the painting? Well, we have, let's see, the standpipe is welded steel, which is painted with epoxy paint, and it was done 20 years ago, and it's in pretty good condition for 20 years. It's about the projected life of that sort of a coating. It wears out first on the inside rather than the outside, because the inside is subjected to water that has some potential oxidize because it's chlorinated water. Every 5 years we've been using divers to clean out the tank and look at the condition of it, and the last time they checked it, they found that there were signs that the interior coating was beginning to lose its adhesion to the steel, and that there were some rust spots where the antennas that repeat our radio signals in town and strengthen them were put on, gosh, probably 10 years ago. So now is the time to actually paint it. It's about the predicted amount of time, and if you let it go longer, the parts that have lost the coating begin to actually rust, and they develop a pitting. And even though we've got more than 1 million gallons in there, and it's 80 feet high, the top 8 feet of it is rather thin. It's like 5/8 of an inch there, so there's not a lot of room to have pitting start there. So it's important to get that done. In order to begin the process, we got analysis of the condition of the tank, and then with our engineer went out to bid and solicited anybody who wanted to come and paint that. And we got 4 contractors who showed up for a walkthrough there and looked at the condition of the tank, and they provided 4 bids. What we're asking for is the water department will drain the tank and dry it out. Then they will go inside and sandblast the entire interior of the tank down to bare metal. And then they have 2 options. One is to put on 3 coats of 2-part epoxy paint, and the other is to put on a primer coat and then a single, rather somewhat new version of epoxy paint, which actually may be even superior to the 3 coats. I can go into some detail there, but basically the single coat is a 100% solids paint. That means that the odor we smell from a paint like an epoxy paint, that means that guys have to wear respirators when they're using it. What we're smelling there is what is required to make the paint squirt onto the surface, say, and then it evaporates and leaves the paint. This new process has no odor, no volatile organic chemicals in there, because it is made capable of being sprayed onto the surface by being heated to a temperature of 140 degrees. And it's at that temperature the 2 parts of the epoxy are mixed and shot onto the wall. And it cures much faster, and it produces actually a thicker coat of protective solids than the other method. It may cost a little bit more. We'll see what the bids turn out to be. That's the inside. The outside is in not bad condition. We offered the bidders 2 options. One is to touch up the outside where it needs to be touched up, but it'll need a full recoating in 5 years. And of course the colors won't match, but the other option is to thoroughly wash the outside and then put on 3 coats of paint on the outside. It doesn't ever need to be sandblasted on the outside, well, at least not this often. So that's what we gave to the bidders to bid on, and we put a proposed schedule there, which means that the tank is drained at the beginning of May, and they work for approximately 2 months. Could be less, could be 6 weeks, maybe it'll be more than 2 months. Weather plays a significant role once you get on the outside, but also on the inside because humidity is an important concern, and the temperature outside too. Because you can't have the steel being at a temperature where it would condense moisture out of the air at the same time you're applying paint to it. So it's a pretty technical process, and we'll have a consistent engineering presence there to actually do the careful measurements and observation of what they're doing, because this is going to be good for at least 20 years, maybe up to 30 years, because the paints have improved. So that's about where we are. We feel we'll get a good bid, and that it'll happen this summer. This summer is the time to do it. The financing, I'm sure, will work out too, but our full financing for the job long-term will be from the Maine Municipal Bond Bank. But they have only 2 issues per year, and we just missed the first one in the spring, our application, and so we're going for the fall one. But to get through until that period, we need the bond anticipation note, which will be limited to a year for repayment. So I'm happy to answer any questions about things.
I got a couple. One is, I guess you're recommending the new paint, one layer. I mean,
We'll see if the price
has it been used other places to prove that it's working?
Yes, I've talked to the manufacturer of the paint. Of course, they'd like to sell us the paint, but the contractor using it, or I think they'll all make a bid on that new paint process, but the one who painted it 20 years ago and produced a very good coat was most enthusiastic about using this equipment. And in a couple of states, Connecticut and Rhode Island, perhaps California, I'm not sure, they're using this exclusively for a simple reason. When you use the good 2-part epoxy 3-coat system, you generate volatile organic chemicals. These go into the atmosphere, which creates some hazard. I mean, they're a undesirable thing, which must be limited. But the problem that some water utilities have been having is if the 3-coat system is not cured just right, you put the water back in, and the VOCs get into the water, and they're strictly limited in water too. So you fill up the tank, you test it, it has VOCs. So what are you going to do? You have to just drain the tank and dry it out all again, and then do a drying process and try to get rid of it. So it can be a difficult problem. So those states decided it's better to not risk having VOC contaminants in the water. So those states are happy enough with it to make that the method.
Is the life expectancy of both products similar?
Yes, the new system has not been around long enough to say it'll last for longer than the other one. But they have done their scientific accelerated testing, and they say we're confident that it will last longer than the 3-coat method. So that's good. It's used in many places, especially where quickness is a goal, because that can be painted on, and 2 days later, it's done, it's cured. And so rather than potentially, in humid weather, 2 weeks with the other paint. So.
Now, Keith, The funding for this, do this would come out of the enterprise fund?
Yes,
There'd be no tax dollars.
that's correct. There is a,
Those of us who use the water pay.
yeah, we have a final payment in October of 2012 for, I believe, our water department, the water plant.
Yeah, it's paid off.
With that, that will all be paid off. We have two outstanding we would then have two outstanding loans. Our first loan would be with the ARRA loan that we received last year, was it last year or the year before, that we did the water infrastructure pipes. We redid all our piping downtown. And with that economic stimulus money, we'll have a payment coming up in April of 2013 of $39,714 for that. If we go ahead and do the standpipe, we're estimating 10 years, as Chris has done here, about $36,000. Right now, we have well over $200,000 that we're paying out, so with that bond that will be satisfied. So there's plenty of money within the existing rate structure to accommodate the loan that we already have, as well as the standpipe that we'll have in the future. And then it will afford us the opportunity to do upgrades to the station, which has been online well over, 10 or 12 years now. maybe
Right,
more.
since 98, yeah.
So
99,
we'll begin the process of updating the station, and all of this will have no additional impacts on our ratepayers at this point.
Good.
Would it make any,
Keith, excuse me, Keith, on the First Street and the infrastructure, how long is that bond? I mean, are you saying it's paid off with the next payment?
No.
No, we're talking about the water plant. That will
No,
be
I'm
paid off.
talking about the infrastructure piping.
No, that's a $1.4 million project, and we'll be paying a little over, almost $40,000 a year until it's paid.
Okay.
And we have to remember, with that stimulus money, 30% of that was forgiven. We only pay back 7%, and the interest rate, correct me if I'm wrong, it was either 2 or 4%, I can't remember what it was.
Yes, I think maybe it was 4, but that'll also be paid off in 10 years.
In 10 years?
Yes.
Okay.
so
I thought it was
in the-
interest-free.
There was a amount of it that was interest-free, and amount of it that was free money, and there was also some that had,
You mean interest-free, not free money?
you're right, it's all interest-free.
That's what I thought.
There was a grant,
At the
and
time.
it was interest-free, you're right, yeah.
So in the interest, I mean, you're not sure that the bond anticipation note requires legislative body approval?
I believe that what Selectman Murphy has indicated and what the bond council is looking at is accurate, that we're gonna need approval through a special town meeting vote in order to enter into a bond anticipation note to secure that money before the municipal bond bank takes over in the fall.
I don't think it would be a problem, because, it's not like it's going up, anyone's rates are going up or anything. I'll do it in the enterprise fund.
So do we just table it at this point?
Any other questions?
Well, I think, I think what we need to do, Selectman Creville, is to open the bids now to see what kind of bids we have. And then I think we allow Chris to take the bids and review them, come back with a recommendation if those bids are good bids as to which one he would recommend. And then I think we table the rest as you described, sir, until we are able to get a discussion with bond counsel tomorrow, and then begin the process of putting together the proper notices to do a open town meeting.
Yeah, and we have to get permission from Somersworth to get our pipeline coming under the bridge.
We'd like to use their water while our
Yeah,
sandpipe is down.
we did before, back when we had it done.
How much is that $30,000 number for cost of purchasing water from Somersworth? How much will that differ if we have to run our water system 24 hours a day?
If we produce water for the town ourselves, the cost will be much lower.
Much lower.
We haven't really gotten to negotiating a price.
Right.
Their initial request was that we pay the same as a residential customer, which would be a wonderful windfall for them. Because the money it costs to make the extra gallons for
Right.
us would be
Well,
far
well, I
less.
understand they have a really, since I've been through their plant, which was when we
Yeah.
were doing our plant, we went through it, that they've really modernized, and they have a really up-to-date water treatment.
It's a very good plant, yes.
Yes, that's what I've been, someone I've got
Yeah.
who was explaining it all to me.
Yeah.
how Good it was. Up-to-date it was, anyway. So maybe they need help paying.
Yeah, right. I will be talking to the I'm gonna scan the bid results and send them to the engineer, and he will be looking at those for any important points that we need to do to decide which is the best, besides the lowest price.
Go ahead, Bob.
There's a number of bids in each package, each packet. The first one says base scope, interior prep and coating, $215,000.
Who's the bid from?
This bid is from Utility Service Company Incorporated out of Hodges Road, Perry, Georgia.
All right. So right now, one of the bids is $215,000
Yeah,
for the inside.
the base scope and interior prep is $215,000. Option one, exterior complete prep and coating, $280,000.
And that is what? Exterior?
Exterior and prep,
Oh.
that's $280,000.
Now, is that just the exterior, or it must be the interior too?
Option one, exterior complete prep and coating, $280,000. Option two, exterior spot cleaning, repair of coating, $140,000. That's what Chris was alluding to.
So we have $215,000 for the inside, either $280,000 or $140,000 for the outside.
But then you have some other items as well. Repairs, the surface filler patching and base metal is $1,000. And light item for dehumidification during the final coat, and that's what you were speaking to,
Yeah.
that of $10,000. And for concrete foundation repairs and caulking exterior floor shell, $7,500. So there are a number of options, and Chris, I would assume that you want to take a good look at those and
Yes,
report back, what is available.
I just added that up, it's over $500,000.
Now,
but
it's,
it
yeah,
is-
it's not appropriate to add them all together. It's a little
Right.
bit confusing.
Okay.
Yes, there are some options, and we'll have to, and some of the line items may not be used at all.
Okay.
But you would have to add the 215 and 280 together?
I don't believe so.
Oh, that's, I've kind of
That's
confused
a
the
whole
way-
lot more than our
It's a
estimated.
multiple bid process. What they've done is they've given you options of what you can do, and this firm has done the same exact thing.
Yeah,
Which company do you have now, Bob?
This one here is from Marston Industrial Services out of Fairfield, Maine. Again, the base interior prep and coating, $180,000. Option one, exterior complete prep and coating, $58,000. Option two, exterior spot cleaning, repair of coating, $18,000.
See, now that for Maine is more common sense.
seems like they're reading it in a different way, more like we intended.
Yeah, at least I can understand it anyway.
Line item pricing for repairs to the surface, filler patching, and base metal, $20,000. And in each case, they listed the square foot area that they're going to deal with. So these are open to anybody to take a look at. Dehumidification, $3,500. Concrete foundation repairs, $3,500. Bonding, $7,950.
Do they list a number 7 there in option 3, alternate coating system?
Yeah, exterior.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one for 18,000.
Yeah.
That's quite a significant difference.
Are you getting both the epoxy 3 and the 2-part system? Are we seeing any of that in those?
There's nothing listed here, and that's why Chris needs to go over
Okay,
these
good.
carefully.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bob.
we can certainly copy these pages, and anybody who wants, we can give a whole set of these too, so you can look at them yourself. So.
It's any bid that deals with this kind of work requires, and this one is Marcel Payer out of Sanford. Getting closer, Al, now watch out.
Yeah.
They'll be working at your house pretty soon. Base scope, interior prep and coating, $146,000. Exterior, complete prep coating, $50,000. Option 2, exterior spot cleaning, repair of coating, $5,000. Line item pricing for repairs to surface, filler patching of the base metal. They've got $50.
It's a per
Don't have
hole.
much to repair, I guess.
$50 per hole?
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
It is what it says, but line item dehumidification is 0, no expense there. Line item for concrete around the foundation, $1,000. Option 3, interior alternative coating, not applicable. They're looking, the total that they've come up with, 1, 2, 4, and 6, is $197,050. So, again, it's extremely important. Chris, take a look at these.
Seems like everybody's got their own way of interpreting these things.
That's, and this is the last one. It's from Limerick Steeplejacks. I didn't know they get into that sort of business. But they're the ones that did our steeple here in
Well, years ago, my husband painted the one in Epping, New Hampshire, the one in Somersworth, and he did quite a few water tanks, inside and out. In fact, 1951 he did Epping.
well, I'll
Not
keep
Epping,
the,
Exeter.
will you make up your mind?
No, it was Exeter he did.
I'll keep the check, Chris.
Okay, yeah,
It's
good.
it's only $1,400, but it's worth keeping.
Yeah.
I've got to get down to there so we can see what the
It's
figures
not
are.
marked bribe or anything like that, is it? No, okay, good.
Okay. Base scope, interior prep and coating, $164,000. Option 1, exterior complete prep and coating, $90,000. Option 2, exterior spot cleaning, repair of coating, $10,000. Line item pricing for repairs to the surface filler patching, base metal, $1,200. Line item for dehumidification during final coat curing 2 days, $6,500. Line item for concrete foundation repairs and caulk exterior floor shell, $2,000. And they sent, I better put that check back in there, somebody will accuse me. But at any
Is it
rate,
made out to you?
huh?
Is it made out to you?
No, but I could forge it, I think. I'll take Judy out to lunch and we'll check in. Let's see. Oh, these are the, this is the material that you sent to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, none of them has differentiated between the old paint and the new paint.
That's right. The
A little
number
disappointed
7,
in that.
Only one.
yeah, we intended item 7, interior alternative coating system, to allow people to bid on that. But some of them may decided they're going to use the new system, period, or they don't do the job.
Does it take special equipment?
What's that?
Does it take special equipment to apply it?
Yes, it does. You can rent it, though, so anyone could do it if they, you have to be somewhat skilled. If you turn it off, you've got 30 seconds to clean it before it hardens up. So,
Oh, I guess so. That's pretty,
I would imagine, Chris, when you go through these, if there's any question about what they're gonna use for a product, you'd clarify that with the company that
Yes,
submitted
yes.
the bids. So, those are the bids. They're open for inspection by anybody who'd like. And please don't remove them. Somebody get ugly.
we aim to make a decision by this Friday. And then we will, that is a decision on what the engineer and I prefer, and then I guess, I'm not sure, we will come back to you to get a
Right.
vote on that.
Right, you would provide to them, after your review, a recommendation of where you want to be, and then
Yeah.
provide that to them, and then they'll make a final decision as to what they wish to do.
But what is the time frame for you, Chris, that you need?
We just want the project to be done when there's a likelihood of good weather so that they can do it. It doesn't matter to us really whether it's the next 2 months or even 2 months later than that, but it can't be the winter. That doesn't work.
Well, that's what I was thinking exactly. We would have to set up a public hearing.
Right, no, you won't need a public hearing,
I mean,
because it'll be an open
Um,
town meeting.
Town meeting to secure the funds to do the project. But before that, we need to know exactly what that is, and that would have
Right.
to be published so that we would know what we're faced with.
Right.
Are there any other issues there that you can think of, Chris, that might have to be looked at the same time? Sometimes when you get a project of this magnitude, there are other side issues that probably economically would be feasible to do at that time.
Good question. Of course, we don't know for sure if there are any surprises in, say, a structural problem or something like that. It certainly holds water and it doesn't leak, but we've just had a visual inspection, so we'll see what happens when it's empty. Other issues, well, there's one thing that many utilities some utilities are doing these days, which is putting in a device to circulate the water in the tank. That's something to think about. They're not cheap, $25,000 or something.
what's the benefit of them?
Well, in our standpipe, the water goes in and goes out at the same location. And it goes in very slowly and goes out very slowly. So there is no real circulation established throughout the entire volume. Temperature can move the water around. If it's warmer at the bottom, it'll go up. But what some utilities are concerned with is that only a small part of the water will be changed every day. The total consumption of the town is like 1/6 of the total volume of the tank. So it's possible that the circulation is such that water goes out And when we pump new water in the next day, it just stays near the bottom and then goes out again the next day. So that there's a large amount of water which is changed rarely. This water then may get a bad taste, or it may have low disinfection residual and produce a health risk. We haven't found any evidence of that. We take samples and it seems pretty consistent, but it's something people think about.
See, the taste of our water, I think, is great, and I drink a lot of water.
Good.
I have no problem with the taste at all, compared to what we used to
Do
have.
you folks have any other questions for Chris at this point?
No.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Appreciate the info.
Maybe we should think about circulating our water.
I guess I'm old-fashioned, but if you run the filler pipe up to the top and you drain out the bottom,
Well, that's true.
you know, but I'm just an old farmer, so it don't count, I guess. However, the next item, abatement supplementals.
Right, we have a bunch of them. The first one that I have listed for you is map 23, lot 1, and it is a supplemental tree growth. The information that was provided to you gave you the process and assessment of how the tree growth penalty was assessed, and that we would be approving a supplemental warrant, collector's warrant, in the amount of $13,238.10 to collect the tree growth penalty.
Yeah, what they did, they took this out of tree growth
Yeah,
and,
they built a house on a piece of land.
and they hadn't taken, and it was in tree growth
Yes,
previously.
yes.
Now, you have to pay a penalty when you do that.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Those in favor, or any discussion? Fine. Next.
While you're doing that, let me just pass this along. This is a supplemental collector's warrant. It needs to be signed in 3 locations on this document. The next one I have is a personal property account of number 750, and again, this is a supplemental
Personal property.
warrant, supplemental collector's warrant to collect personal property amount of $450.45. I believe that all the pertinent information is this a supplement or an
It's a
abatement?
supplement and an
Both.
abatement. It was an owner,
Okay.
indirect ownership,
All right,
or actually, in this one, the leasee took the property.
all right, so we have a
It was-
supplement of it, and then we have an abatement that will go, the supplemental assessment will go to personal property number 150, if I'm reading this correct, and the abatement will be to Direct Capital Corp. Supplement is to David Doucette Excavating, and the abatement is to Direct Capital Corp. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So we have one,
Any discussion?
So moved.
Second.
which one are we doing first? We doing the supplement first or the abatement?
Yeah.
I got the abatement.
I got the
That's
abatement first.
All right, let's do the abatement first.
Still so moved.
Evidently, this was.
We got a second? Okay,
You got this one, Paula?
Hmm?
This one?
Those in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I know what I'm doing here.
Those in favor?
All right. I will pass this along too, and you'll be signing under the abatement granted.
You making that noise, Ken?
Who is
I think-
supposed to notify the assessors when something like this is?
Typically it's the owner of the information, but the purchaser is supposed to give us
Oh, yeah, a list of what, yeah.
and so if we don't get both of them, save the time, then we don't know that the property's transferred. And sometimes it's months later.
Yeah.
The next one is a supplemental assessment for personal property number 150. It's the assessment, a supplement to the abatement that you just provided.
Well, yeah, we can always use the money.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second it. Any discussion? No discussion. Those in favor, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep up with the paperwork. Computers were supposed to eliminate all this paperwork.
All right,
you know?
here's the next one, and this one was done a while ago, so please, right now, only Selectman Murphy and Crichton's name on there, so please just sign your names in a blank spot. The next one I have is a supplemental assessment recommendation to tax map 38, lot 12B on 18 Thompson Hill Road. Assessment to James and Deborah Chandler for $1,761.76.
Again, this is an ownership issue, and it is an abatement term for the incorrect owners. In the present, when they transferred, it was a newly subdivided parcel.
You got a motion
Second.
on that?
Those in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'll pass that around. Just make sure I get all those signed
Bob, will you
documents.
I'm gonna
Back, you
compile,
gotta sign the
Keith, I
bottom.
gotta compile them right
I'm
here
sorry.
for you.
Thanks.
You only sign twice.
Only signed it twice.
Oh, yeah, Bob, you gotta sign this one
I'm
again.
glad you keep an eye on me, Eleanor.
Well, I have to.
Next one I have is,
Done.
Here's that one as well.
That's when you gotta sign.
Yep.
we all set?
Okay, I think there's that one.
The next one I have is map R34, lot 22. This property is located at 134 Knox Lane, and this is for an abatement in the amount of $238.81. Mike could answer if you have any questions about this.
Just want to quickly,
Sure. So it's a mobile home on a 9.4 acre parcel. They had an appraisal done in July 2010, indicating a much lower value than what we had assessed. As with all abatement properties, we went and inspected the property, and we found some discrepancies, which resulted in the assessment being reduced to $16,700. We don't agree with the appraisal figure. We don't like the adjustments that were made. Both of us are appraisers. We didn't agree with the adjustments, so, we adjusted what we thought was appropriate to get a revised assessment of $102,700, which results in that abatement.
Well, now, this is 9 acres?
Yeah, it's a mobile home on 9.4
Acres. Right here, it's right here in town, Knox Lane. Is there a lot of wetland or anything in it?
Yes, there is wetlands on the property.
That's down there on the left, I would assume, right?
Because
It's on the right.
9 acres is, I mean, that doesn't sound like a,
There's the back section of the land is all wetlands, and it goes around the side of the land. So a majority of the land is unusable. There's probably, I was talking to Jim, there's probably 3 buildable lots on the property.
Which side of the road is that, on the left-hand
It's on
side?
right-hand side,
Or the
just
right-hand
before you
side
get to
going
the new
down?
subdivision, yeah.
Before you get to the new subdivision.
Well, Patridge Lane? Is that the name
No,
of the subdivision?
it's, the piece of property that, that Mr. Chandler just built the road further down.
Yeah,
We used to be dirt. And
Yeah.
and then Cindy Gallo's place was the first place on the right as you went down there. And it sits up a little bit. It's a mobile home, sits on the right-hand side,
Oh, okay, yeah.
okay?
There's a new mobile that's
Yeah.
down further. It's just-
Move that we accept the recommendation.
I second that.
You second it? Those in favor? Eleanor?
mm-hmm.
Oh, good. She nodded, I guess that counts.
I can't write and put my right hand up at the same time.
Oh, dear. Okay.
The next one I have is a abatement application for map R29, lot 8A. It's on 405 Diamond Hill Road. An abatement, they're recommending an abatement of $248.82.
Again, this is a colonial style property on a 6-acre parcel. This one also had an appraisal that was done indicating a value that was slightly less than ours as of February of 2012. We did review the appraisal, and as I stated before, we personally inspected it. There was some minor overall discrepancies regarding the interior detail, and the overall condition was overstated. As a result of that, the assessment was reduced $14,600 to $355,400, which the appraisal supports when you factor in the town's equalization ratio that our assessments are higher than prices. And therefore, we're recommending an abatement of the $248.82.
Now, when was this house built? It's fairly new, isn't it?
Yeah, this one's less than 10 years, I would guess.
2000.
2000? And you said there was some, it wasn't, there's some difference from the interior?
Yeah, the condition of it, the condition is in worse shape than when we had it. It's in fair overall condition.
Well, it probably was assessed when it was brand new, 2000.
Well, the property's been reviewed since that time. We did have the revaluation. It just, the wear and tear has gone above and beyond what's normal.
Moved, second. Everybody in favor? Disfavor?
Motion.
That high, the house,
Okay,
10, 12
that
years
one's
old.
carried.
They can reduce it.
Was that voted?
Like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know what?
send this one along. And last but not least, we have an abatement application for tax map R38, lot 12B. I think this dovetails with the supplemental that you just provided, correct?
Yes.
So this is just a abatement where you picked up the supplemental tax already on the proper owner instead of George and Donna Lowry. It should have gone to Chandler, James and Deborah Chandler.
Second. Brian made the
Those in
motion.
favor?
Gotcha.
Gotta be a little louder down there.
Those in favor? Thank you. That covers them all, I guess.
I do show there's one more piece, R7, lot 3-A.
Yeah, that's what I've
Don't
got
have it.
here.
That's on your agenda.
Okay, I see it on the agenda, but I don't see it in the packet.
Oh, I got it.
You do? Maybe I missed
We
it.
can go over it.
Well, if she has a copy of it, then I must have printed it.
Sign it on those pages.
It looks like it was a long time.
Which one was it?
It's map R7, lot 3A to Gilbert on 238 Long.
Yep,
Long
I've
Road.
got that.
This is a raised ranch property on a 2-acre parcel.
Yes, I have it right here.
This one had an appraisal done on the property as of April 14, 2010. We inspected the property and noted some slight adjustments to the land where appropriate to reflect some wet areas, and some other adjustments to the sketch and interior detail regarding the flooring and those types of items. As a result of those corrections, the assessment was reduced to $25,100 from $223,800 to $198,700, and we're recommending an abatement of $358.93.
Now, you've gone and you've looked at some change of wetland from what was on the previous card. Isn't that just a person's opinion? You think this is wetland and the person who did it before evidently didn't think it was as wet as you think it is?
It may not have been that 5 years ago or 6 years ago, or maybe nobody's ever brought that up.
We mean it wouldn't have been wet 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, topography can change the way, as we build more properties, we are ending up with more wetlands. As you fill in somewhere else.
Well, yeah, well, I understand
Sometimes
that.
that's what happens. In this case, it may have been that nobody's ever questioned the fact that, hey, I've got some issues with my land, so nobody's ever looked at it in the past.
Because Long Swamp is, well, that's why it's named Long Swamp.
Yes, ma'am.
Believe me, I know Long Swamp too.
Just to clue you in on something, I did pick up some decks and a shed in the backyard, so, and they've been there since the previous revaluation, the owner said. And so the person probably never even walked in the backyard when they were doing the revaluation.
Because, I mean, all these abatements, I mean, I find it, and then the wetland and I don't know, I think we have a lot of abatements. I
If you
really
may.
do, as you know that.
Right, may.
Sure.
Just for the new members of the boards, the abatements that you guys have here are not anything above and beyond what is normal we find every day. We've been keeping track of them here to see how you compare to other towns, and in fact, it's lower. This year, for example, you had 25 abatement requests. That's less than 1% of all your property owners came in and filed for abatement. What I'm showing with the approval of all of these today, the net assessment went down about $1,003,003, which is less than 1/4 of 1% of your town's value. So we're not even there. The net of the abatements is roughly $20,000, but the supplements were roughly $23,000. So by correcting all the items that we did find and that were made aware of us, we actually didn't even see a decrease in the values. But over the past, since the revaluation, which is typically when you see the most abatement applications, even then you only had 4%. 3.5% of your parcel owners came in and filed for abatement, so.
That's total since the, since the revaluation?
No, that's the annual,
Oh,
on
okay.
an annual basis. But I do have this information if you guys want to look at it at any point in time, or want me to provide it to Keith in a more.
But you're saying that, we are average for other communities. Well, last year, we had $35,000 in abatements. The town of South Berwick had $3,300. They had 3 abatements, one to themselves, because they had billed themselves a piece of land, and one because they built a cemetery, and one a business, $3,300 some odd dollars. That was their total for the year. That was in their town report.
Yeah, again, I can't speak to
So,
that.
I know you can't speak for them, but what I'm saying, according to some of our communities, we have a lot more.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Last year, we had 35,000, and I was told the same thing. It's only 1% of a thing. But why are all these errors, I guess?
Well, again, part of it is, you are always going to be errors. We don't get into every single property.
Well, you're supposed to do 25% a year. Isn't that state law?
Well, you have to look at them over a period of time, yes.
Yeah.
Or within a period, and they've been looked at. But again, we don't get into a lot of these, obviously. A lot of these that we find, it's interior items that we're not getting into. We could do a much more in-depth attempt to gain access to everybody's property, but again, there's the cost involved, so you got the cost benefit of that type of thing.
But my house was gone into this year,
Sure.
thoroughly, top to bottom.
Yeah.
First time since 1979. I was chairman of the board the year we had a full evaluation.
Okay.
So that's how many years. I guess
Yeah,
there's
and
a
then-
few that's behind. But, no, I'm saying, I still think we have a lot more abatements in our surrounding towns in Maine. And I'm not looking at New Hampshire, because I don't know what New Hampshire does.
Yeah, well, it's
I don't know the laws in New Hampshire at all. I am very well acquainted with the laws of Maine.
And we can check other communities if you'd like me to surrounding. I don't know what these are because we don't.
I don't know what South Berwick is this year, but I know last year, the town report that came out, they had 3.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation on this one.
We get another one?
Seconded.
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now.
So,
work
did
on.
it.
All right.
Any further discussion? If not, those in favor?
What's the last one?
Pass.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Michael, thank you for being here.
Nice meeting you.
as well.
And if there's anything specific you need, Ms. Murphy, or any board member, please let us know.
Oh, I've been in talk to Michael.
Okay. All right.
My sympathy goes with you.
Oh, I thought we got along very well.
Yeah. And sometimes that's how it works.
Okay, that's it for abatements, right? Public comment. Anybody care to speak? If not, take care,
Thanks,
folks.
guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
If not, yes, sir.
Adam Puffer, 309 Diamond Hill Road. Mr. Chairman, when you said if some of us had questions or specific questions and insisted that we put that in writing to be considered by the board, I must protest that strongly. As you all know, the last election, transparency and not sweeping things under the rug was a big issue, and all of us, I know it's a long night for you, it's a long night for all of us. I'm not wasting my time coming down here so you can tell me to go home and put it in writing. You answer our questions when we're here. That's what you're there for.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, motion to adjourn? I'm sorry.
Andrea Wilmette. On April 4th, on the meeting of the forestry, you opened the bids then, and now there was something brought up about the bids again for the forestry unit replacement, or they were too high or something. Didn't we have one for like 104,000?
124, I believe.
124 was the lowest?
I think that's right.
No, I thought it was 179 was the lowest,
And
Andrew.
I was gonna say
No.
164.
164?
No,
No, we'd have
that's
to look.
See, I wrote them all down, and I thought, I don't have the 104, but that sticks in my mind, but I do have the 124.
All I can tell you is that the fire department rejected all the first bids, and we are getting prepared to go
She's
back
right,
out to bid.
124, 949.
Yeah, that's what I had down.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. All those bids have been reviewed,
And they're too
and
high?
they
Is that
denied
what
all
you're
of
saying?
them. They did not send any back with recommendations. What they did do is go out to bid, watering down what they were requesting to some degree.
Why weren't they happy with the 124, 949?
I don't have that answer.
And
I'll have
excuse
to-
my
I'll have
ignorance,
to
I
find
just
out for
want to
you.
know.
But we had 125,000.
Correct.
That's the,
So, is there a question you wish for me to pose to the fire chief to find out why he rejected all the bids?
no, but I'm just kind of wondering, he got one for under his 125,000. There must have been something wrong with
There
it.
must have been something they didn't appreciate. Would you care for an answer to
Yeah, it would
that?
be kind of interesting
Sure.
to
Yeah.
know.
I think you'll find there was probably a difference between a gas and a diesel
Well,
engine.
but then and he's changing to a gas.
Let me find out for you.
Now, this one, this
Thank
time
you.
around,
Thank
yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? If not, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Anybody care to second that?
Second that?
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks.
But Bob, I'd like to say that I think people understood what you said about in writing. I think they took it a little different than how you meant it.